This 911 Strong podcast is brought to you by our partners at the Police Credit Union of California.
As a financial institution founded by law enforcement for law enforcement and their families over 65 years ago, they have the experience and understanding to help you with all your financial needs,
including exclusive products designed specifically for law enforcement professionals. To become a member today, visit thepolicecu.org. That's the police, the letter C, and the letter U.org.
Or call 800-222-1391 and tell them you heard about them from the 911 Strong podcast.
Station to all units.
Prepare to copy.
You're listening to the 911 Strong podcast.
Don't act like I never told you.
With Aram and Kristen, bringing you stimulating discussion.
No, I like the sound of that.
An entertaining conversation.
And now, here's Kristen and Aram.
Welcome back to the 911 Strong podcast. What's going on over there, Kristen?
I'm doing filters on your face before we start.
All right. Let's go back to this. I am Aram Choe, and with me, as always, is America's favorite dispatcher, Kristen. Kristen's obviously having a little fun there at my expense.
Yep, it's Friday, and we don't have to work this weekend.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you're smiling because the last week or so, you've had mini crisis at the house, right?
Yeah, that was fun. We had a mini, what we thought, quote unquote, mini leak along our windowsill, the top of our windowsill, and it started about 3 to 4 weeks ago. And we finally got the contractor and the homeowner's insurance to come out and look at it. And they had quoted us for like $4,000 for this little leak. So we're like, well, maybe we can wait because these storms should be about over. We'll just let it dry out and then we'll just like start setting money aside and get it fixed because, you know, spring's coming. It shouldn't be that bad anymore. And then, we came home from a wedding, and as soon as we laid down, we hear this huge crash, and our daughter ran in and said our ceiling caved in. And sure enough, it did. It looked like our roof threw up inside of our house. And yeah, so we got that fixed sooner than later now. No putting it off.
Yeah, for those that follow Kristen on social media, on Instagram, you would have seen on her story, they were having this great time at this wedding. You guys looked great, by the way.
Thank you.
And it was late into the evening, and then you come home, and then the following slide is your house, your entire dining room area is covered in that blown insulation, drywall. Everything came off your wall. I felt, as soon as I saw it, I mean, half of me wanted to laugh just because it happened. The other part of me was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And then what a horrible time, too. I mean, it's like it's the middle of your work week. You were working that day. You left work. Danny left work early. And all that to happen. And
then I was supposed to work the next day. I mean, can you imagine? I called after everybody knows we're at this wedding because it's a work wedding.
Right.
And we're having a good time. And then I call in sick. And I'm like, seriously, my roof fell down.
Yeah, sure.
Like, yeah,
Kristen.
that's a believable one. So I'm like, I'm sending you a picture right now.
I know. And on top of that, it was going to rain. I mean, we've been in this.
Yeah.
I feel like we've moved to Seattle. LA has just been. As a matter of fact, we've had more rain this year than Seattle has. And,
Yeah, I saw that.
It's just incredible. And then you guys had to patch that thing up because it was going to rain again. We had another storm coming in.
Yes. So luckily, thank God, we found a really great contractor. And the inside of our roof from our house isn't fixed yet, but the outside to keep it from leaking, that got fixed. They came out. So that happened on Saturday. Sunday, I called in and spent the day cleaning deeply and thoroughly so that the insulation got out of here. And then Monday, they came and assessed it. And then Tuesday, they fixed it. And then Wednesday, we had our storm. So thank goodness. Just in time.
I'm glad you guys were able to get that patched up in time for the storm, which I can't say is the case for our next story that we're going to bring up. The California Highway Patrol is in a bit of hot water these days. They recently released body cam footage of a man that died while in police custody. So the backstory to this happened a couple years ago, right before the George Floyd incident, where you heard the famous lines, "I can't breathe." Well, this video eerily has the same thing happen. The suspect in this case was under an investigation for DUI, driving under the influence, and we later find out that he had methamphetamine, alcohol, and marijuana in his system. And we all know how dangerous that can be. So he was a trained observer, would clearly see he was in a state called excited delirium, where your body's in such a panic, your mind and body connection is such a panic that it starts to, you start to hyperventilate, your heart rate goes to dangerous levels, and your body goes into some sort of shock. Well, he's being investigated, and you start seeing body cam footage from these CHP officers, and he's not willing to give blood. He says, you can consent to blood, or we can get a warrant. So that's what they do. They get a warrant, and the warrant issued by the judge says you can get you can forcefully extract this blood. And how we do it a little differently. We have a chair. I call it the Hannibal Lecter chair. We put him on a chair. We have soft restraints where it isolates the arm, so that the nurse that comes can draw the blood safely.
Yeah.
Well, out there they had this individual handcuffed, which is fine, and they had about 5 officers hold this guy down. So that the nurse that responded could draw the blood. And you can clearly see this guy is not cooperating. He's panicking. He's in excited delirium, and he keeps repeatedly saying, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. And we all know when you can repeatedly say something out of your mouth, you're actually breathing. I'm trying to empathize with these officers and put me in their situation. It looks like if I would have the same thought in my mind, is like, this guy is high, he doesn't want to cooperate, and let's just get this blood drawn. So in the process of holding him down, I didn't see any pressure on his back or anything like that.
No, there wasn't any that I saw either.
Yeah,
none on his back, none on his neck, just pinning him down, keeping his arms still so that they could take the blood.
They isolated his limbs.
I'm sure they've done that dozens of times.
Yes. And it was very calm, and the nurse the entire time, she's the qualified medical personnel there, is checking his vitals and all that, and doing what nurses do. And if you don't know, for our listeners that don't know, if you're a police officer, we relinquish first aid and medical services to a more qualified medical person on the scene. So whether that's a fire paramedic, fire personnel, or a nurse for that matter, we stop taking the lead on the medical portion. Well, they draw the blood, and they notice this guy is just still. And I can see the nurse checking for his pulse on his carotid, and the officers are kind of letting her take the lead, right? I mean, if the nurse can feel a pulse, who are we to double check?
Right, yeah. So that's what she was trained for, more so than us. Yeah.
Right. So 3 minutes later, he dies, and you don't really hear anything about it on the news until recently, I think a couple days ago, where the CHP released the body cam footage, and now the family's attorney is suing, and the district attorney. It happened in, was it Altadena?
I want to say I thought it was Ventura, but maybe not.
No, it was closer. It was LA County. I think it was Altadena. Well, somewhere in the
somewhere in
foothills.
LA County, yeah.
And the DA did a press release and said that he was pressing charges against these officers and the nurse, which is obviously stirring up a lot of controversy in the law enforcement world. I don't know. What do you think? You saw the video. Did you see anything that was reprehensible or shocking to the conscience, or anything that was out of the norm?
No, not at all. I mean, they were very respectful to him. They weren't arguing with him. They're just very calm. They weren't aggressive, anything like that. It's just, in my opinion, I think that DA is just flexing his power on it, because there was no abuse of authority like they were saying. Like you said, they went through the whole process, told him he was already handcuffed. He was sitting up talking just fine. And then they told him blood, or like you said, warrant. He kept resisting that, so they did okay. And it's going to be found that it's common practice. Maybe they'll change the practice now, but because of this, but it's been common practice, and they've done it dozens of times. It's CHP. They deal with people that are drunk or high all the time. And then, like you said, they check for vitals. They did try to do rescue on him, and it just didn't work, unfortunately. But when you're mixing alcohol and drugs, unfortunately, that can happen, and it's not their fault. You want to blame the criminal, go for it, but I don't think it'll fly in court. I think it's just, I just don't think this individual likes to support law enforcement, and he's grasping at straws. I don't know if this was an SB2 thing that they brought back or what. I don't know.
No, it will be an SB2 thing because it occurred in 2020, I believe in 2021 or 2020, and SB2 goes back to January 2020. But let's go back to what you said about policy changes, because I agree with you. I do think if it hasn't changed already, because it happened 2 years ago, it will. It will change the way they do things because, as I alluded to earlier, our agency does it differently. I think we do it in a much controlled, monitored, safer fashion for everybody, which requires less officers. We don't have the luxury of getting every officer available out there. So we use tools to help us, and we have this restraint chair that puts an individual in a comfortable position. There's no compression, there's no body weight or anything like that. And they're strapped in utilizing soft restraints. So back when I was in patrol, we had to utilize that for a woman that was really intoxicated, and apparently she's a violent drunk. So she was probably 100 pounds soaking wet. But, when people can't control their behavior, they get that strength, and that's what happened with this individual. So we opted to use the restraint chair, and we called our on-call nurse to come in, and everything worked out great. But in this situation, I could see the policy changing, the tactics changing a little bit, because there's not only a risk to the individual, there's a risk to the officers. Anytime you have officers have to exert force, there's a potential for injury for everybody. And optically, at the end of the day, it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
So I really hope that they take a good look at that policy if they haven't done it already. Now that it happened, it's definitely going to be an SB2 case. They're going to review it, and let's just hope that they survive this. Because I really do think this is an opportunity for the DA to make an example out of them, or try to. But I really can't see, the press at the press conference, the family attorney came out and said that the coroner colluded with this cover-up as well. So the coroner's report said that the contributing factor to this individual's death was excited delirium, right? The mix of methamphetamines, marijuana, and alcohol. So you mixed two depressants with a stimulant, and that's not good. That's like what they used to call a speedball, heroin and cocaine, or heroin and meth, and it does some really bad things. And today we don't know what's laced in our stuff.
Yeah, they're mixing a lot of different stuff, especially fentanyl now too.
Right. So the coroner's an independent person. They have no vested interest in who these officers are. They're not in law enforcement. They're the coroner. And the attorney's saying that the coroner omitted that this individual died from asphyxiation or compression, and none of that was a factor in the coroner's report.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping, this should be an interesting case to follow. I hope it's somewhere I can follow it, whether it's the internet or news reports. But I'd be interested now in seeing where this goes, because it can impact the way law enforcement conducts these investigations in the future.
Yeah. Well, it would just be interesting to know then what does that DA expect the officers to do? They went through all of the steps to do all of the right things. So does he want us to just kick him loose on the street then? Be like, okay, well, he doesn't want to give blood, so be on your way, sir. Good luck to you. Like, come on. Yeah. But it'll be interesting.
We'll definitely be keeping up with the events that unfold with the CHP incident and move forward. All right, next up, I want to talk about something that's been on the news recently. It was the unfortunate school shooting at the Covenant Private School in is it Nashville?
Yeah.
Have you been keeping up with that story?
Yeah, I was working the day that happened, so yeah, it was sad to watch for sure. It was really disheartening to see, and I just feel really bad for those kids. For anybody going through anything like that is traumatic, but always with kids, it just pulls at your heartstrings a little bit more.
All right. So we briefed on this at my last patrol briefing. We collected the body cam footage and the surveillance footage at the church school, and we kind of chronologically saw the events unfold. So, people are naturally going to compare the way the officers responded to this to the Uvalde, Texas school shooting, and the contrast is huge. In Uvalde, there's the controversy was the officers failed to respond during an active shooter because they were ordered to stand down. In this situation, the officers responded. They didn't wait for instruction. They reacted the way they were supposed to and handled this as a
hostage.
Active shooter situation.
Yeah.
So just let me recap what I observed to give benefit to the folks that didn't see the video. The shooter shows up to the school in a minivan, parks, walks right up with her rifle slung, and this rifle's not an AR-15. I don't know what model it was, but it handled handgun rounds. I believe it was a 9mm rifle, and shoots it through the double glass door, and goes underneath the middle crossbar of the door and walks right in. And she's going through the lobby and looking for people. I think by this time people hear that there's something going on, and they evacuate upstairs to the fellowship hall. And she's walking around the building looking for victims, I suppose. Doesn't really fire other rounds, but you can see that she's opened the door and tactically entering rooms and clearing. By this time, there's an administrator or a teacher or some sort of faculty out front, and she meets with one of the officers who pulls up. I can see this through her body cam, and she's giving him basic info as he's pulling his AR from his trunk. And you can tell that this officer's, listening to her, but multitasking, getting his equipment, getting ready, looking around to see who else is there. The lady tells him they've all evacuated to the fellowship hall, but they cannot locate 2 students, is what they said. And he says, thank you. He got that information. He's walking up and down, and another administrator is by the door and hands him the key to the door that he should enter through. And you can hear the officers saying, I need 3 on me, 3 on me. Obviously, they train on a diamond entry element. It requires 4 officers and they form a front, back, and 2 sides, 2 flanks. Other agencies do a 3. They do a triangle. But in this situation, he did what he was trained to do. And other officers responded, and then now you see in 2 different body cams there are 2 elements, search elements now. Most everybody had their rifles. One of the guys on the initial search element had his handgun. I mean, this is a good reminder for those of you out there, if you belong to an agency where they don't issue you a rifle, spend the money, get your own rifle.
Yeah.
Or shotgun. Shotguns are great too for that sort of situation. But a rifle gives you stability, it gives you range, you can mount really good optics on it. Something to think about. And then on top of that, too, if your agency does not give you ballistics like rifle plates for your vest, plate carrier for that matter, or ballistic helmet, get those, please. And if you do have them and you're one of those officers that doesn't have them in your front seat, shame on you. Have that ready to go. And if you don't train, if you have it in your front seat and you don't train on how to respond to a scene and don that stuff while you're driving, please practice that.
On your own if needed.
Yeah, absolutely. That happens on your own. When I got my helmet and my plate carrier, I hung it from the front seat of my passenger car because I always rode one man, and mine fits like a bib. It goes over my head, and I have 2 clip-on straps I could do that all with one hand, and my helmet I just throw on my head and I clip that together, and I can do that all while I'm driving. And that's something that you need to practice, because if you don't practice, when it finally happens, you're not going to.
There's going to be so much adrenaline. Yeah, you're going to be fumbling around.
Oh, absolutely. So they enter, they clear rooms, they find the subject and the suspect, and they kill him. And is it him or her? I forget. Her. And there was great communication. I think after the suspect was down, The lead officer on the second element was like, watch your backs. There could be a secondary, and set up a small perimeter within that area before the code 4 was put out. But all that happened, I think it was a matter of 2 or 3 minutes from the beginning to the end.
Of when they got there.
Yeah. I hate to say it was textbook because there's no such thing as textbook, but it was handled well. Other than the fact that there was casualties, and there's obviously, if we could have stopped those casualties, great.
Oh, absolutely.
But 3 children and 3 adults lost their lives because the shooter felt the need to promote evil at that location.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think they've released the whys yet. I mean, it did sound like during the press conference that they did find her manifesto or reasoning for things, but she did select that school out of the second one that she looked at because it was a softer target. Yes. It was easier to penetrate, and obviously it was. Like, look, even if the doors were locked, she just shot through the windows and walked on in. So
yeah, my kids are homeschooled, so I really haven't been exposed to what schools look like today. But the couple times I've been to other people's schools, you can't get past the front door without being let in through a gate, a locked gate. So I think for the most part, schools are doing a good job of securing the perimeter. But where they could do better is to have an armed presence, a security, something. Yeah. I tell people all the time, like when I was in patrol, people that get burglarized at their home or their car, I would tell them the opportunity was there because, bad guys, burglars are going to go past the house that has the dog, that has the security sign, that has the light, that has the locked.
They pick easy targets.
Yes, they'll go to the one with least resistance. Even if you have a little chihuahua that barks, they're going to go past that because they don't want that noise. Yeah, they're going to go to the easiest target. And how many times have you had someone call in and say, someone stole my purse from my car? It's like, isn't that the first thing you think about? Why did you leave your purse in the front seat of your car where we can see it?
Well, that's what we ask them too, because, not going into big detail, but if it's a petty theft or a burglary, and they just check, most easygoing criminals, I guess you could say, I'll check the door handles. So if your doors aren't locked and your window's down, they're getting whatever's in your car. It's easy.
Right.
It's easy.
Yeah. We could do a whole episode on how not to be a victim.
Maybe we should do that next time. But I don't see why not. I mean, I know some people are like, well, that's not the teacher's job. And I agree with you. It's not their job. But we're in a crazy day and age where criminals aren't being held accountable. Nobody's doing anything about the black market. And clearly, I mean, they're going after soft targets everywhere. They're going after grocery stores. They're going after schools. You don't see this happening at like a gun show or anything like that because they'd be obliterated. So they're going after the easiest parts. And my friend in Texas, he's a chief down there, and his wife is a teacher. And he said just about every other teacher in that school has a CCW, goes through training classes, and it's required. So that way they're competent with the weapon. Right. And it's completely up to them, but they all have one. So
yeah, when you said that kind of reminds me of like when we're hanging out with friends, and we were walking through a rough part of town. The civilian friends will inevitably turn to me and go, "You're carrying, right?" And I'll say yes, and and that gives them a sense of security and calm just to know that someone's armed there. Yeah. And for the people the proponents of gun laws and stuff like that, I'm here to tell you, no amount of gun laws. We have some of the strictest gun laws in the country. I mean, in the world. Short of banning guns, like on our last interview we had with Larry up in Canada, they don't even allow civilians to carry guns. But that doesn't mean a mass killing can't happen. I'm just here, I'm trying to remember the stories back in Japan. Let's see, someone used mustard gas. You can make mustard gas at home. Someone went on a stabbing spree.
In Europe, yeah.
Yeah, it's just...
they'll find a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. Exactly.
And the tool, obviously, is the firearm. But whether it was legally purchased or illegally purchased, if someone wanted to use a firearm, they will. They'll, through whatever means they can, they'll get one. I can't tell you how many ghost guns we've recovered out in the field. For those of you that don't know what a ghost gun is, it's 3D printed polymer lowers. Usually the printout is of a Glock lower, and then you can buy uppers. You can buy all these pieces online or through the black market and piece a gun together. It's just, and if it's not a gun, my point of all this is, I don't care how much you eliminate guns in this country, because we're a country that has 2 different borders. You can still get guns because you can easily smuggle things across the border.
Yep. Yeah, no kidding.
We're in a country where there's currently more firearms than there are people. So
Yeah.
It's already here.
Yeah.
We don't have a large enough army to find, locate, and take all these guns. It's here. It's the history of our nation. It gives us a unique advantage.
Well, and I think too, like a problem of it. Well, like you said, we're not going to be able to get all the guns off the street. Even if we were to go to every single house in America and all of the law-abiding citizens turned it over, that's not going to eliminate all the guns. And for somebody to think that, like, it's a nice thought, but it's very unrealistic. But the other problem too is we have all these in California hard gun laws, but then all these guys get found with it, and it's a misdemeanor, and they're released, and we catch them again with another gun.
Right.
You know, so they're not prosecuting these people. Whereas if you carry, what is it, a dagger, then it's a felony, and they stay in jail for that, but not for having a stolen gun or a ghost gun or anything else. We kick them loose.
It's so strange. Speaking of these laws, I just spoke to our friend Mikey over at Proforce. She's a general manager there. Actually, I had a meeting with her before we went on to this recording, and she told me that there's some legislation being passed. Actually, just passed the first phase right now up in the Capitol, where they want to eliminate officers from being able to buy off-roster guns. So if you don't know what an off-roster gun is, it's usually a compact-sized gun, right? Officers carry off-duty, and we want to carry something that's not going to leave a print. What I want you to know I'm carrying, so we carry concealed, and usually it's a smaller gun. And a lot of these small guns are off-roster, and they're trying to eliminate officers from being able to purchase that. And the 10-day waiver that we have, the background waiver, they're trying to eliminate that as well. So we got into an interesting conversation about that because the police lobby is strong up in Sacramento. Police unions are strong. The lobbyists are strong. That's why we get taken care of in California like we do. So I'm hoping that this gets eliminated. But yeah, that's going to hurt not just cops, but it's going to hurt businesses like Proforce. And if you've listened for any length of time, you know we love Proforce. They're a badge your way in only gun store, and the quality they have there, the guns they have are largely off roster because the clientele. It's only people that can badge their way in, and it would hurt their business, and they're a strong family-owned American business, and it's just another way small businesses are getting hurt as a result of these laws that handicap them. But anyway, so while they're still, hopefully this law doesn't pass, but while you can, get your guns and get them from Proforce. Yeah. If you don't have a badge, go in with somebody that has a badge, because that's how my wife goes in. She goes in with me. The Proforce and Brea, they're personal friends of mine. I push them because, and you guys all know we wouldn't push anything that we don't
use ourselves,
right?
Or stand behind.
Exactly, and I stand behind them 100%. So does Kristen. So does Danny. Good people. So visit Proforce and Brea and support them, and hopefully these laws don't go through.
Well, I mean, what is even the point of that? Like, of all the different things you can go after, why would you go after that? Like, what are you trying to accomplish?
Strengthen the laws for the criminals, not the law-abiding people. You want...
Yeah.
It's so strange. It's an agenda. It's people... I have this theory, Kristen. I believe deep down inside, everybody wants to do what cops are able to do. Take people to jail, chase bad guys, drive fast in cars, and carry guns. If people don't feel that way, there wouldn't be so many movies devoted around cops,
Right?
detectives. Look at
Right? Hollywood is just so jealous of you guys because that's all they ever have in their movies.
But it's,
all the time.
It's true. I don't know if it's a jealousy thing, but I know it's a desirable thing. It's an attractive thing.
Well, clearly it makes money because people pay to go watch it, and they're making money off of pretending to be heroes that they're not.
Right. And so these people up in Sacramento are people that, to add to my theory, that are power hungry. People that like power. They say it's for the people, but really it's for themselves. They want the stature.
Yeah.
But the one thing that they can't stand is that with all the status, they still can't do what cops do.
No.
They still can't drive fast. They still can't carry guns. They still can't take people to jail as much as they want to. So I think they're trying to stick it to the man. They're trying to do whatever they can to even the playing field. And they hate. I don't know if they hate us, but they definitely don't like that we have the advantages that we do. And my answer to all of those people is no one's stopping you from going to the academy. We'll get the same retirement. We're all in the same state retirement system.
Yeah. I think they should have to go on ride-alongs before they start trying to change anything within a police department.
Yeah.
If you don't know what we do or how we work or why we do things, you should have no say until you go and experience that for at least a few times.
Right. But
so that way your eyes are open.
They think
they're cute.
They're always the smartest people in the room. And,
Here's my theory. They were probably some of the biggest dorks in school that got picked on and nobody took seriously. And then they went this route and now they're demanding no, I make the laws and you're going to stick to them. And
But why not make laws that benefit
are for the people?
Yeah, like handicap the bad guys, the criminals. Why are we making it so hard for law-abiding citizens, the people that you want to be armed? Because I guarantee if the teachers at that school were armed, it'd be maybe a different story, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Well, I mean, look at a few years ago, the shooting in Texas at the church. You had the one guy that had his CCW and took him out right away.
Yeah, I'd love to have that guy.
Yeah, he's amazing. But I mean, there you go. If you feel confident, and that was a law-abiding CCW holder, and he did what he had to in the moment. And, it's just, I don't know why they are so against law-abiding citizens, and they do not go after criminals, and they do not try to hold them accountable or even their families accountable if things weren't properly stored away the way that they should be.
Yeah.
But
we protect our president with a team of guns. We protect government buildings with guns. We protect money with guns.
Yeah. Concerts, the little hoity-toity Hollywood elitists that talk so much crap with their little award shows with guns.
We can't protect our children with guns.
Yeah, concerts, all the things. Yeah, I know. I just can't wrap my mind around it, and
it's definitely a political agenda. Everything is agendized. Even they tried to politicize and agendize the shooter by making a deal that she was trans. Who cares? Evil is evil. I made a tweet about that. I said I don't care about the gender of the person, the religious beliefs. Evil is evil.
Yeah.
And it's time to get down to the basics and say, was it a mental health issue? It could have been. I don't know.
Is any sane person going to be doing that?
Yeah,
really?
Right. Exactly.
No. Everybody who does something like that or commits a murder or molests a child, something is legitimately wrong in their brain.
Right.
So there's a mental health issue to some extent with all these freaking criminals, because no normal person is going to go do any of that.
No.
But to make that to pit it against the other thing, no, this person's just evil, just straight up evil. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing that we have people like the heroes that we did in Nashville.
Which also goes to say, this is why you need to fund police departments and make sure they get the actual training like that they need. So that way it is just like clockwork with them.
Yeah. It's funny, this whole defunding movement, and they were talking about civilianizing the response. What happened with that? We had a couple.
Well, I mean, you have Uvalde, right? That didn't go in, that held off, that didn't do it for whatever their excuses were. And I'm sure they didn't get the training because I believe most of them were school resource officers. So they weren't trained a certain way. And then you have these guys. So it just goes to show you how important training is. But you do defunding, you take away their money, or you give them these little PC classes that they don't need, as opposed to like going in and stopping an active shooter. There's your drastic differences between both of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to do I think you had to do it too, harassment training.
I haven't taken it yet.
Okay, yeah. It's not due for a little while,
I'm being honest.
But, it takes a couple hours, and it was mandated.
Yeah.
It's something that's
Yes.
mandated in the state, and I don't know why this other stuff is not mandated. The type of training that that needs to be done isn't mandated. The funding's there. There's so much
it's agenda.
money. We had so much money in the state. There was a surplus that the governor decided, instead of using it for stuff like training and stuff, no, we'll just give everybody a paycheck or a debit card or something.
Yeah.
No, use it.
Well, but he's very anti-law enforcement.
Yeah.
He has never once met with any law enforcement agency. He's just completely anti.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised there. But I mean, you can't demand excellence from police when you refuse to give them the training that they need for situations like that.
Right.
Especially when our state is letting criminals out left and right.
Right. All right. Well, on that note, I think we've infuriated our listeners long enough.
Sorry.
No, I rightfully so. I think if you're listening to this, there is a reason to be angry. That's why we had such a mass exodus from California last year or the year before. For the first time in like over 125 years, we netted in a negative number in population. Usually every year we bring in more people to California, more people, the population rises. Last year or the year before, I forget, for the first time in over 100 years, it went the other way. More people left California than came in. And I think that's a testament to people being tired of these laws that are being implemented that do not benefit the people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. It is. California is beautiful, just not the politics.
Perfect. That should be a sticker.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyhow.
All right, friend.
It's been real.
It's been real. All right, folks, that does it for this episode of the 911 Strong podcast. We surely appreciate the fact that you guys are listening and bring us into your homes, offices, and on your drives. But we have something to ask for you guys. Tell your friends about us. Get on that platform, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, and leave us a rating and let those networks know how you feel about our podcast, because it does help us, and it helps us continue to do what we're doing. It makes our sponsors happy, and as long as our ratings are up and you guys are leaving reviews, I think it's a win-win for everybody. They get
yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll have some exciting news soon. So
yes,
make sure you tell your friends.
Lots of stuff, and another opportunity to watch the 911 Strong podcast. I can't reveal too much, Kristen, but I will say it's an opportunity for you to see us on your TVs.
It's like Christmas.
All right.
Sorry, my coffee's kicking in.
Good. All right. All right, guys. We'll catch you guys next time. And stay safe. God bless. We love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.